What's going on, Sooner Nation? Welcome back to the podcast. As normal, we've got a packed episode for you. We're going to start on the recruiting trail where Oklahoma just hosted a massive Future Freaks weekend, and the commitments are just rolling in from that. Then we're going to head off to Nashville, where the Sooners men's basketball team is fighting for March Madness life in the SEC tournament, and maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying they're dead yet, maybe there's a shot for the NCAA. And then we're going to close things out with what is just can't be described as anything other than the unstoppable force of Oklahoma softball after another record-setting weekend at Love's Field. So we got recruiting momentum, we got tournament pressure, and historic dominance. We've all got it on this episode. So let's jump into it. Starting with Oklahoma's Future Freaks weekend. If you're a fan of Oklahoma football and you follow recruiting, this weekend was one of those moments where you just take a step back, you look around the college football landscape, and you realize something pretty clearly. Oklahoma recruiting is just absolutely on fire right now because while fans are busy watching basketball, softball, and everything else going on around the athletic department, the real fireworks over the weekend were happening quietly behind the scenes there in Norman at the Future Freaks weekend. And everything was centered around this event. Now, if for some reason you're unfamiliar with it, Future Freaks is essentially Oklahoma's version of a massive junior day recruiting summit. Okay. It's when the Sooners bring some of the best high school prospects in the country onto campus, particularly players from the 2027 recruiting cycle or whatever, whatever's the upcoming cycle in past or future years. But what happens is they get a full immersive experience inside this program. They get to tour the facilities. They get to meet the coaches. They get to hang out with other commits. They see what life looks like inside this program. And most importantly, they start picturing themselves wearing crimson and cream. And every program in the country does junior days. This isn't something that's exclusive to Oklahoma, but what happened in Norman this weekend, it wasn't just another junior day. It was an avalanche of recruiting. And you kind of had a domino effect with this because within just a few short hours on Saturday, the Sooners triggered what can be described as kind of a commitment chain reaction. And it started with Jamison Roberts, the quarterback. That's Oklahoma's target at the quarterback position for 2027. He's a fast rising signal caller from Alabama who Oklahoma identified early. Give them their credit. They were in early. They offered him before a lot of other programs really jumped into the mix. And that belief in him early is what paid off. He committed on Saturday. And when he did, it sent a message to everyone else visiting the campus. You got the quarterback of the class. He's chosen. He's there. And then when that happens in recruiting, things start to pick up. Within a few hours, the Sooners added 3 more commitments. You got interior offensive lineman Tyson Ross jumping in there. You got a safety, a very coveted safety, I might add, and Jalen Scott. And then tight end Seneca Driver, one of the top tight end prospects in the country. And you think about that, 4 commitments in essentially the same recruiting window. That was just on Saturday. And that doesn't happen by accident. That's momentum. That's preparation. And that's what happens when recruits show up to campus and feel like something special is building. But you know what? That was Saturday. Then Sunday rolls around and the run continues. Oklahoma lands in-state athlete Graydon Howell, incredibly versatile product who can line up at multiple positions. He's going to play receiver 90% at Oklahoma. That's what I'm betting on. And when the dust settles on the weekend, what Oklahoma did was they added 5 commitments connected directly to their Future Freaks event. That is a monster recruiting haul, but there's a bigger story here. And the bigger story is what it did to the 2027 class overall, because after that weekend surge, Oklahoma, they didn't just have a good class. They had locked in what was already the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They put distance. Every major recruiting service has Oklahoma at number 1, and there's distance. Some services have Texas A&M at number 2. Some have Ohio State at number 2, but But the main difference is Oklahoma's number one in all of those, and not by a little bit. It is a comfortable margin where the Sooners are sitting right now. And when you actually look at the names already committed to Oklahoma for 2027, it gets really impressive. They've got multiple top 100 prospects that are locked in. Players like Cooper Hackett, offensive tackle, one of the best linemen in the nation. Cooper Witten, son of former NFL star Jason Witten, Oklahoma's tight ends coach. Caden Penny, another elite Oklahoma offensive lineman, locked in there. In fact, this class already includes 11 prospects that are rated 4 stars or higher by various services. And remember, this is 2027 we're talking about, okay? So these players are still early in the recruiting cycle, which means rankings are likely going to change. So you've got the good chance that some of these players are going to rise. And many of these recruits could climb to even higher ranks nationally. So the scary part for everyone else around is that this class could get stronger. But again, let's do what we do here on the Sooner Nation podcast. Let's zoom out. All right. Let's get a different look here, because Future Freaks Weekend, it's not just about collecting commitments. It's about building momentum and relationships early in the cycle. And this event is designed specifically for underclassmen, juniors who are about to become seniors, and the next wave of recruits that, programs across the country are already targeting. So in recruiting, obviously, timing is everything. If you identify players early, if you build relationships early, if you get them on campus early, you gain this huge advantage. And that's something Oklahoma's been doing extremely well since Brent Venables came around. They're not just chasing recruits. They're setting the pace right now. And when you talk about the biggest reason behind all this momentum, it comes back to the name that I just mentioned, Brent Venables. For years, he's built his reputation as one of the most relentless recruiters in all of college football. And now that culture has fully taken root inside this Oklahoma program. So when recruits show up to Norman, they're not just meeting coaches. They're meeting a staff that's intensely involved. The position coaches, the recruiting coordinators, other players, strength and conditioning staff, everyone is selling the same vision. And what we're seeing is that recruits are buying it. They're jumping in. And this staff right now, they're crushing it. I mean, look what's happening across this coaching staff right now for Oklahoma. Offensive line recruiting under Bill Beatonbow, it continues to be elite. Defensive recruiting, the pipeline that Brent Venables has built in producing blue chip prospects, incredible. Then there's a storyline that kind of really stands out because we're just scratching the surface of Jason Witten, former Dallas Cowboys legend, just joined this staff. He probably doesn't even have his boxes unpacked yet, but he's already making waves because one of the biggest commits from Future Freaks Weekend was Seneca Driver. I mentioned him earlier, the tight end, widely considered one of the best, if not the best, tight end prospects in the entire 2027 class. So that's immediate recruiting impact. And when you add NFL credibility to your coaching staff, recruits are going to notice, but not just the recruits, the parents, and then everyone else is going to be in there figuring out what's happening. And so your future is getting built right now as spring practice is just now getting underway. And what makes this weekend especially important is that it does signal something bigger. Oklahoma, the Sooners aren't just recruiting well. They're recruiting strategically. They're building classes around elite offensive line play, versatile defensive athletes, playmakers at the skill positions, and quarterbacks who can develop into stars. And that's how championship programs recruit. And right now, Oklahoma is laying that foundation years in advance. And here's the crazy part to all of this. Future Freaks Weekend, it might not even be the end of this surge. There are already predictions that more prospects could be joining this class, including another highly rated offensive lineman, more highly rated defensive backs. And if that happens, Oklahoma's leading this recruiting rankings. It could even grow larger than what it is right now. So what this means altogether is that, look, recruiting rankings in March, they don't guarantee anything. Players decommit, other programs catch up with you because at some point you're going to level off. And we've seen classes shift. Oklahoma has been a benefactor of that, and it's been something that's hurt Oklahoma in the past. Because like I said, players decommit. Other programs make late surges. But what this weekend proves is something important, that Oklahoma has serious recruiting momentum. And when momentum hits during an early cycle, it can snowball. Recruits want to join winning classes. They want to play with other elite players. And right now, Oklahoma's 2027 class is shaping up to be exactly that. So when people ask why Future Freaks Weekend matters, well, it's not just about the 5 commits. It's about the message that it sends. It tells recruits across the country, Oklahoma's building something. And if you want to be a part of it, you might want to get in early because the train is already in motion. And if this weekend was any indication, that train is moving fast and it's heading straight towards what is going to be the future of Oklahoma football.